Support for your public radio station comes from our members and from Mary Cariola Center, proud supporter of Connections with Evan Dawson, believing an informed and engaged community is a connected one. marycariola.org. And Springboard, a funding competition focused on activities, networking, and events that work to grow the entrepreneurial ecosystem throughout Western New York. Applications are due June 10th, 2025. Details at springboardny.org.
From WXXI News, this is Connections. I'm Evan Dawson. Our connection this hour was made in a New York City suburb in the days after the 2024 election. Doris Davis and Susie Bartlett had spent many happy years together, but now they were facing a decision. Here's how Reuters reported the story this past weekend. Quote, when U.S. President Donald Trump decided to seek a second term in the White House, Doris Davis and Susie Bartlett, an interracial lesbian couple living in New York City, made a life-changing decision. If he won, they decided they would move abroad. The couple said they had been willing to give Trump a go during his first term, but they'd watched in alarm as he returned to office and ended a range of policies they thought were aimed at promoting racial equity and rights for LGBTQ+ people. We love this country, but we don't love what it has become, said Davis, a 69-year-old educational consultant. When your identity is being attacked, there is a personal sense of anger and frustration. Now they're working with an immigration lawyer to assess options in Europe. The couple is most interested in Portugal and Spain, attracted by the Southern European lifestyle, and are looking at a digital nomad or retirement visa, end quote. The Reuters headline is rather direct. Fearful of Trump, some Americans look to make a life in Europe. And the data appears to back up the claim. They report, quote, government visa and citizenship data, as well as Reuters interviews with 8 relocation firms, indicate that a surging number of Americans are considering moving to Europe in the wake of Trump's election, though the figures remain relatively small for a nation of 340 million people. U.S. applications for Irish passports are up 60%. In France, government data showed that long-stay visa requests from Americans are up 25% over a year ago. Blacksit, a company that helps Black Americans move abroad, saw traffic to its site jump over 50% following the election. It has also seen a 20% increase in its paid membership community, Blacksit Global Passport, and applications for UK passports in the last 3 months of 2024 were a record of any quarter in decades, end quote. Now, to be fair, relocation companies and websites helping people emigrate say that at any given time in recent years, a significant number of Americans have shown an interest in moving abroad, citing issues that go beyond politics. Sometimes it's social issues. Sometimes it's to reconnect with family. Sometimes it's retirement goals. Sometimes it's the relatively high level of things like gun violence in the United States. Italian immigration advisor Marco Permunian is the founder of Italian Citizenship Assistance. He noted that the election of President Biden in 2020 led to an increase in interest too, mainly from Republican voters, although Permunian said that most did not follow through, but he says the chatter spikes every 4 years. Most of the relocation firms that Reuters spoke to said there has been a much larger spike in interest since this recent election. So this hour is not about politics. It's not just about escaping the kind of politics you don't like. It's about how this process might work, how long it would take, what it might require, depending on where you want to go for whatever reason. And I want to talk to our guests about their experiences. In studio is Ruby Lockhart, a Rochester resident who lives in Italy for part of the year, co-owner of All Day Sunday, a retired labor specialist for New York State United Teachers, and a retired executive director of Garth Fagan Dance. Welcome. Thank you for being here, Ruby.
Thank you for asking me.
And on the line with us, Kristin Vanden Brul is co-proprietor of Spino Secco in northern Tuscany. What time is it where you are, Kristin Vanden Brul?
First, I want to say happy birthday, Ruby.
Thank you.
7 o'clock at night.
Well, welcome. Thank you for making time. And Marietta Nollen is with us as well, co-proprietor of Spino Secco. Hello, Marietta.
Hello. Thanks for having us, Evan.
So,
I had to say ciao.
Ciao. Ciao to Marietta and to Kristin, who are kind of living if you're someone who likes the Italian countryside, and I don't know who doesn't, they're kind of living the dream. We're going to talk about that. And I want to start by saying to Ruby, who's with me in studio, you and I talked a little bit last week, and you know, this need not be a conversation for 60 minutes about politics. That's not necessarily what it's about. It's about understanding what your options are. It's about getting to a point where you want to go for it. And so for you, you're a Rochester resident who lives in Italy for a big part of the year. When did you decide to go for it? What was that process like for you?
Well, it started back during COVID. I was planning a trip to Italy and it was canceled. And thereafter, I think it's a little more than 2 years now, Kristin and Marietta purchased Spino Secco. So I saw that as an opportunity to go abroad where people I know and who have already had experience were going to be there. So that's what I did. My daughter and I went for a short visit, 3 weeks in May, 2 years ago. And then later that year, I went for 3 months because the limit for the year is 180 days for Americans. So that's what I did.
I mean, were you just radiating with envy when you went for the first time a couple of years ago?
Uh-huh. Salivating.
It's a pretty remarkable thing to see because there's a lot of, as Reuters notes, there's a lot of talk about this kind of move. And sometimes it is for political reasons and sometimes it's for other reasons. But the follow through, it takes a lot. And you can understand why people may dream of it. They may say, well, someday I'm going to go live somewhere. And then it's hard to, whether it's money, whether it's understanding what the legal process is like. So for you now, the arrangement is 180 days. Is that right?
It's the law. It's not what I want. It's what the law is.
What do you want?
I'd like to be there more full time, but 180 days is satisfactory. I go 90 days at a time, and Kristin and Marietta are there year round. So it's like having a family there, and you have everything that you need when you go to Spino Secco, because the apartment is fully equipped. You have your kitchen, you have living area, you have swimming pool, you have hiking, sea. There's nothing that you want that you don't have. So when I went back the second time, it was over winter. It was like October, November, December. I came home before Christmas. And then the next time I went December, January, and February. And I've gone May, June. So I wanted to see what it would be like all year round. And mostly it's fantastic all year round. It doesn't matter whether it's raining or cold or hot. It's just magnificent.
How's your Italian these days?
Not good, but they have apps for that.
That's one place where AI is maybe going to make it even easier to communicate with people. Don't even have to learn languages in the future. So that's a bit of Ruby's story. And by the way, Ruby, when I read the Reuters story and the story of Doris Davis and Susie Bartlett, they are very explicitly talking about making a move like this for political reasons. Do you know people who talk like that, who say, well, if X, then Y?
I talk like that.
You talk like that?
Yes. Last November, I was sure that Kamala Harris was going to be president. So I postponed my trip, which was going to be in October, until after the election. I wanted to celebrate on U.S. soil when something so phenomenal happened. When she didn't win, I left in December, and it was for that reason. Marietta had posted something on Instagram which said, post-election retreat. I said, that's me. That's exactly what I need at this time. So I went there in December. Coincidentally, Kristin happened to be in the States at that time, so we went back together. And I didn't have all of the post-election hype or blues, that kind of malaise that sets in when your candidate loses.
Because you're in another country?
Because you're in another country.
Kind of a political detox?
Oh, my God, it was phenomenal. You don't have it on TV because you're not watching TV. So if it's not on social media, then I'm not really keeping up with it. And because this has happened before, 2016, the show that was going to come after his election, you could predict what it was going to be. So I wanted to be away for that time.
Let me be fair. Relocation companies definitely heard from people who said they would move if Hillary Clinton won in 2016. They hear it all at these firms. There are firms explicitly that do this. It's just that they say the numbers indicate something different and more fixed and permanent this time around. And so, Ruby, what would you say to the idea that no matter what your politics are, going to another country based on an election result, that's too much. That's too extreme. Why do that? Why not stay and push for whatever you want to see happen? Why leave?
Because I was born in 1946, been here, done that, Just because a clown moves into the White House, doesn't make it, he thinks he's a king, but he's a clown. I don't want to be in a country where that kind of leadership is tolerated. I want to be somewhere where people are celebrated. And that's the difference in moving abroad. Where you go, the people that you meet, they're all coming from some sort of strife, perhaps. The Israelis that live next door to Marietta and Kristin, they're there because of what happened in Israel. We have German neighbors, we have British neighbors, we have Dutch neighbors, we have neighbors from all over right in Tuscany. And when you get over why you left the country, you embrace what you're moving to. And what I like is the whole lifestyle, the kind of comfort that people have with each other and differences. And as I said to you on the phone, I don't feel black in Italy because everybody's something. The whole expat migration there leads you in a community of a lot of different people.
Do you feel black in the United States?
Oh, yes. I was going to swear, but I've had to catch myself.
I heard that.
Oh, my God.
That was a good edit.
Yeah, thank you.
Very good edit, Ruby.
Okay.
A live edit.
Thank you.
Rob Braden's back there ready with a dumb button, but you got it. So you feel black in the United States. What does that mean to you?
That means every day, everywhere, no matter what interactions you have, whether it's at the bank, whether it's in your car, it's just that race makes a difference. If you're applying for a job, if you know young people and you're coaching them applying for a job, it all comes back to race. And that's one of the things that's going to happen in this country when you go to the meritorious system that the government is now pushing for that takes race out of it. Where's the checks and balances?
Tell me a little bit more. So you're keen on all the talk about merit that comes from this administration.
Yes.
To replace programs like affirmative action,
civil rights,
Okay.
all of those things that we fought so hard for since 400 years.
Okay. But I'm looking at the population of Italy, 1.5% black, less than this country. And yet when you are there as a black woman, you think about your race less.
I don't think about my race, period, in Italy. And I've gone from Tuscany down to the Amalfi Coast to lots of little villages and towns.
Countryside to cities.
Every place that I've gone, people are helpful, they're friendly, they're open. And I've made quite a number of friends that I can call my friends as a result of being with Kristin and Marietta and being at Spino Secco. It creates a community of people who come together despite differences. It's not that we all agree. It's that there's a certain level of respect there that for differences that's not present in the United States at this moment.
In a second, we're going to ask Kristin and Marietta to tell the story of how Spino Secco came to be. I did want to ask you one other point, though. When you talk about how you felt in November after the election and how you wanted to seek refuge in a place where you wouldn't feel that angst, someone listening is thinking, wait a second, who's the prime minister of Italy? They're connecting some dots here.
I connected the dots
Okay,
too, but that's not my problem. Malone is not my problem when I'm there. The issues that they have as citizens, they do not affect me. I'm not a citizen. I'm there to enjoy myself, to have historical experiences if I want to have vacation privileges that I want to, and that's what I'm there for. I'm not there for politics. When I'm here, I can't escape politics. They never stop.
Well, Kristin, Vanden, Brul and Marietta Nollen are co-proprietors of Spino Secco in Tuscany. I first met Kristin years ago when Kristin ran a wine shop on Park Avenue in Rochester. I didn't know that in the future this person who was teaching me about wine was going to be living in Tuscany, kind of living the dream. So Kristin and Marietta I want to give you some space to tell the story of how Spino Secco came to be. And if you don't mind, Kristin, talk a little about process and what you learned along the way for anybody who is thinking about maybe those kind of future journeys themselves.
Well, first, I think, thanks, Evan, for having us on.
Yeah.
I think I'm going I'm going to let Marietta start because it really was her dream that I kind of latched onto. So you want to go ahead and start? Marietta's from the Netherlands.
I'm not American. I did not escape our politics, although also a bit early. But I was actually I had an empty nest. So my son left the house to go studying, and I was living on my own. And I lived in Amsterdam, in a good part of Amsterdam. So my house really got a lot of value. And when I was there, and my house was so empty, at one point I thought, okay, why am I'm a writer, so I can, work everywhere. And I thought, why am I still living in this big city in this very expensive house? So I sold my house without really an idea of what to do. No, I had an idea what to do. I thought I want to make a place where people can come by themselves, alone, also in a group or in as a couple. But I wanted to be a place where people could come alone, but in good company.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my vague idea that I had. But I didn't have a house yet or a place where I could manifest that. And I just bought after I sold my house, I bought a big car and I thought, I find a place. And on my way, I met Kristin because she was on a holiday. A friend of mine invited me on a holiday, so we met there. And I was going to look at a
property.
Property. Sometimes my English. Property in a little place called Vanden in the north of Italy, near the French border, and I liked that place a lot. But it was not so. In the end, not so beautiful. But I knew everybody there, so I felt safe. I was doing it alone. And then the group where we had this travel with said to Kristin, you have to go there because she's going to waste her money, and you are in real estate, so you know what you can maybe help her not doing stupid things. Thank God, indeed, Kristin came, and the house that I had my eyes on, she said to me, if you buy that, you will be bankrupt. So, we got to know each other better, and we decided to do this together, but still based on the idea of creating a place where you can have a loose togetherness.
People can be there alone
Right.
in their apartments, but they can also get together as a community when they want to, as they want to. And so we began looking. We started over on the French-Italian border. Then we went up to Piemonte. It took us our first trip. Well, the first time I went was like in December. Then I came back in April. And in April is when we decided maybe we'd do something together. And then I came back in June. And then in August, I came for a month and we put an offer on a house. But we started looking kind of on the French-Italian border. Then we went to Piemonte. Then we looked on the map. Marietta wanted to be 12 hours or less from the Netherlands because her son was still going to be in the Netherlands. So we looked at a map and saw northern Tuscany. I don't know northern Tuscany, neither did Marietta, but it sounded good. So we went in August of 2022 and looked at 16 houses.
Yeah, well, the first house we came off the highway from Parma. It was the first time we ever been in that area, and I saw the sign in the next to the highway, and it's Mulazzo. I thought, Mulazzo, we're gonna look at a house there. We had an appointment there, so I said, let's go out of the highway and go to that property, and just take a look already. And we went to the gate. We went to the village, nice village, beautiful village on a hill. And medieval village, really pretty. And we walked up under the gate, and then we came up to the house and we saw the gate. And I said to Kristin, we don't have to look any further. This is it. But Kristin, I'm much more like, instinctive, let's say. And Kristin said, no, but we have to see the 16 houses and we have to make pro and cons. And I said, okay, we see the 16 houses, but we're gonna buy this. And ended up in the end, we saw the 16 houses, but we bought then
Yeah, we hadn't even been
months
inside,
ago.
we
No.
hadn't even been inside the house yet, but the house we bought stood high above everything else we saw, and we realized we could create that kind of world that she first envisioned in this, at this place.
Unbelievable. Kristin, over the last couple of years, how many people have said, "You're Diane Lane. This is Under the Tuscan Sun"?
Oh, no.
Right. Yeah. Well,
No way.
it's yeah, a lot of, well, I'll just tell you, my family and friends were kind of somewhat shocked that I was going to do something like this. Just, I didn't imagine that I would move here right away. I thought I would kind of invest with Marietta in this place, and I'd come back and forth and help out as needed and do the kind of the dance that Ruby's doing, which is the 3 months in and 3 months back in the States. And I did that the first year. I came for like 6 weeks, went back for 6 weeks. You had to follow a calendar to make sure that you didn't overstay the 90 days and 180-day period. But our business really took off, and we got busy a lot sooner than we thought we were, and a lot busier than we thought we were. And I had a dog and a cat, and that became a problem. Where do I leave them? So, I definitely was not totally organized in my mind of what I was going to be doing. There's things neither one of us thought about, but we learned, and we did it by the seat of our pants. And here we are, 2 years later, and loving every minute of it.
Absolutely.
It's an amazing adventure.
So what was Ruby, when you first got there, what was it like for you to understand that you're not only just on holiday now, here you are with a friend of yours from Rochester who's actually doing this? Did that open your eyes to the possibility?
Can I interrupt first?
Oh,
Can
sure.
I just interrupt? I have to tell you that Ruby came with her gardening clothes and her gardening equipment, and she came. Her daughter thought they were going to visit, also, run around Italy, and Ruby spent every day fixing our garden, working on our garden, planting flowers, planting pots.
You are a terrible
And she was
vacationer.
I had a great time, but
She
that's
was our
what
first guest.
that's what happened. When Kristin first posted the pictures of the castle and the apartments and everything, Shalane, my daughter, said, we should look for houses while we're there. We'd never been to Italy, and this is our first 3 weeks, but we both had this instinct that this would be one of the places that we could resettle. Once she retires and everything, we'd just buy a place together.
In the countryside.
Oh, yeah.
It's the best.
And then, both of us now, next month, we're going to Spain and to Portugal to see what that type of living is. But back to Spino Secco. When I first came, I was like 1 day by the pool or half a day. But my whole goal was to garden, because I could see from the pictures that they could use a gardener. So I spent, they had a lot to do, and I could do outside. And they began to, Kristin probably trusted me, but Marietta, she would ask me questions, and I'd ask her what she would like. And sooner or later, she said, just go do what you think you should do.
But it's not like you know where the garden store is.
Yes, I do.
Right outside Spino Secco?
I know how to go every place around Spino Secco and all of the little villages and where all the flower shops are.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And this sounds I understand this kind of sounds, I think the kids would say bougie or whatever. I apologize for that. But the Italian countryside is the best, isn't it?
Oh, my God. I go to the market every day.
The best.
Yeah. And Marietta said, well, you and Kristin, you guys like to go to the store a lot. The market in Italy's fresh. Everything's fresh. And it's all new. And you have to translate what it is you're reading. So you could spend a lot of time in the market. And they cook differently than we do. So you don't buy a whole bunch of stuff. You kind of buy what you need, so there's a reason to go out and do things every day.
And you think about the pace of life and your point about feeling like you cannot escape the tension that comes from American politics, the media noise, all of that. It contributes to a digitization. We're all on our screens. The pace is, the stress is high. it feels in the countryside there like you are back in time somewhere.
Oh, it's amazing.
And I'm glad to hear that hasn't changed, by the way.
It hasn't, because it's quiet there, except there's always waterfalls. There's always the river. There's always the sea. There's always something in nature that's flowing and making you feel invigorated. So you can be outside every day. And Kristin and Marietta, they have to hike every day because they have dogs. And when I was there, Marietta took my dog every day. So there's 3 or 4 or 5 dogs at all times. So it's almost like a doggy hotel too. But, that's the other thing legally. How do you get your dog to Italy? Because I took my dog both times that I've gone, I've taken my dog.
Okay, so just a remarkable set of stories here. Ruby Lockhart, if you're just joining us, is a Rochester resident who spends roughly half the year in Italy, 180 days, which is the max.
Correct.
2 different 90-day segments, which the law allows for. When we come back from our only break, what we're going to answer some questions that have come from listeners. We'll get some comments, questions. And it's not the same in every country. Italy will have different rules than the UK or Ireland. And so let's take a look at some of what we know. We'll try to answer some comments and questions. And I want to talk to Ruby about what the future might hold for her. If you're wondering, wait a second, Ruby's a 180-day year, but Kristin's there full time. How did that happen? We're going to talk to Kristin and Marietta about nailing down that permanent status and a lot more. So if you're just tuning in here, we're talking about this idea that maybe someday in the future of your life, sooner or later, you might want to move abroad. And we're talking to people who are actually doing that and what that entails. They happen to be going to northern Tuscany. Poor souls. They're making it work. We're coming right back on Connections.
Supporting your favorite programs on WXXI TV and radio is just a click away when you go public at WXXI.org. It's a convenient and secure way of supporting an important community resource. WXXI.org. Go public and pledge your support today.
This is Connections. I'm Evan Dawson. So, some questions, comments are in regards to how you're able to do this legally. And here's David in Ovid. He says, "I'm someone who would love to live overseas. In fact, I'd like to permanently move away, preferably to the UK, where my great grandfather mistakenly left, leaving me stuck in that crazy country between Canada and Mexico." But David says, "When I researched moving overseas, it looks very difficult to do so for any extended period. It appears you have to be employed by a company overseas, or be independently wealthy, or married to a local citizen. As much as I'd like to go, quote, home, it looks hopelessly impossible to me." That is from David. So looking at some of the info that we've been able to gather here, David, so we'll get back to Italy in a second. From the UK Immigration Office, under the heading, "Can a U.S. citizen just move to the UK?" They write, "You will need to apply for whichever visa type you legally need for the purpose of your proposed UK move. As a general rule, you will be able to move to the UK, providing you meet the visa requirements for U.S. citizens to live in England, Ireland, Scotland, or Wales within your chosen visa category." When it comes to Italian citizenship, you can, according to the Italian consulate there, you can apply for Italian citizenship by descent through the consulate or directly in Italy if you wish to speed up the process and if you can stay in country for a couple of months. The procurement of all the supporting documents generally takes a few months, and it's a very delicate process. So if this is new to you, if you've got Italian heritage, I would encourage you to look this up online because it is real. I know people who are doing it. I've got a family member in Ohio who has done it. It involves doing some genealogy, looking up some family history, and sometimes going to small towns in Italy, trying to prove where people came from. But yes, there's ways to do that there. Now, Kristin Vanden, Brul, how did you do this? How did you pull all this off?
So there are different types of visas available. There were different options. Actually, not too many options for me. When I decided that I really wanted to be here more than the 90-day kind of period, we worked with a company called Smart Move Italy. It's a Canadian woman, and her business is in Florence, I think now. But they kind of on their website, you could find a lot of information. So I explored, what they were their website was very helpful in figuring out how I was going to be able to do this. And I went through a retirement visa is what is probably the easiest
Right.
way to get there if you're in the position to retire. You have to, retire from your job, and you have to prove that you that you take in over 31,000 euros a year through a pension or through
Passive income.
it's got to be passive income.
Right.
Yeah. So that was the way I was able to do it. I was able to, I'm a widow. I was able to take my husband's Social Security, and then I sold my house and am holding a mortgage on it. So that qualified me to get what's called the elective residency visa. It takes about a year to get through that process. You have to do it. You have to apply from the States. You can't come to Italy and do it. You have to go through your local consulate, which in my case was New York City. And it's a bit nerve-wracking. You have a lot of paperwork to fill out. You have to show everything about your assets, your income, things like that. Staying more than 183 days a year in Italy means that I become I have to pay Italian taxes. So that also complicates that. And this is going to be my 2025 will be the first year that I'll have to try to figure out Italian taxes, American taxes, and all that. I have an accountant here in Italy, and I have an accountant in the United States that are working together to figure out the process.
Ruby was nodding at many points in the process here. So what's your future, Ruby?
It's very similar to Kristin's because I've been retired for a long time, and all of the proof that's necessary I have. And so it's about deciding. When I left there this year in February, I decided I'd start really getting into speaking the language. And one of the difficult things is the driving in Italy. Getting a driver's license takes quite a long time because you have to learn a whole new set of road rage rules. And Kristin's been working on that for a few months now. And the truth is, I learn a lot from her. We've walked side by side, literally on walks, as she was applying, going through this whole process, figuring out the laws and what she was required. So I learned everything that I know and need to know already from her and from Marietta.
Remarkable. Well, Preston writes to say, how about tax complications for expats? He says, while there are many more people looking to relocating abroad right now, it seems that some of the practical obstacles would be difficult to overcome, including the financial ones relating to taxes, investments, and the like, particularly for those seeking permanent residency or dual citizenship. That's from Preston. The Reuters article that I mentioned that came out this weekend says the following, quote, for those who proceed with moving abroad, there are several visa options. Digital nomads visas for remote workers in countries such as Portugal, Spain, and Italy are popular. Retirement visas, work permits, and student visas are also in high demand, but there are also many hurdles, including the U.S. tax system, which taxes its citizens on worldwide income. So Preston is noting that he thinks that it would be a real tangle financially. Kristin, you touched on that, but do you want to follow up on what would you tell Preston?
Well, I think one of the things really why a lot of people decide to retire in Italy is the lower cost of living here. My property taxes in the States were very high. And here I own a house by myself next door to Spino Secco, where we have the 7 apartments that I own with Marietta. And my total property taxes for the year is about $1,500. Well, now a little bit higher because of the, the dollar has dropped so much against the euro. But so I pay about $1,500 right there. That saved me close to $20,000 a year, based on the taxes that I had in the States. So, and then of course, food here is so much less expensive. Wine is less expensive. Really, the only thing that's higher is the cost of gas, probably. And then regarding the income tax, you can't, that you don't, U.S. doesn't tax you twice. So it's not like I pay taxes in Italy and then I pay taxes in the U.S. I still am a U.S. citizen, so I do have to pay taxes, but I get credit in the U.S. for the taxes that I've paid in Italy. So I do have to pay a percentage of a very small percentage on worldwide income and worldwide assets. And I don't, you definitely want to work with an accountant on that and go through that and understand it before you make this decision. But for me, and one of the other things that's great here is healthcare. After I get my residency, which will be in like 45 days, then I can get healthcare for $2,000 a year. And right now in the States, I'm still paying $675 a month for healthcare. And Italian healthcare is very, very good.
Excellent.
All right, so there's a little bit of an answer there for you, Preston, that kind of paints the picture of what Kristin has to deal with. Get an accountant, get somebody who knows what they're doing, have them help you plan for it if you're really looking into this, whether it's Italy or elsewhere, or if you want to go and move in with Marietta and Kristin, which apparently everyone's going to want to do. Charlie says, Evan, our two best friends who had two hugely successful careers, a beautiful house, money in the bank with loads of friends, decided to leave and move to Portugal. They started the process 4 years ago as the political climate in the United States became too polarized for their long-term well-being. They jumped through all the required hoops in Portugal. They bought a house and moved there in October, and they could not be happier. They believe they are better off mentally, emotionally, and financially in that the cost of living is much lower. They, too, were shocked when Kamala Harris lost. By the way, my son and his Japanese wife are moving to Japan in July for similar reasons. His wife does not feel safe here and never leaves the house without her passport. This is shameful. That is from Charlie. Charlie, I thank you for the note. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, so one of the things, that's we laugh because there's just so little crime here. There's no crime here. The only thing, we laugh, the pizzeria across the street from us had 20 euros stolen, and that was the big scandal in our town. It's just very, everyone kind of knows each other, so it's you feel very safe. And I think that's one thing that's, Rochester, crime in Rochester has increased a lot, sadly, but here you feel safe, that, kids walk to school. It's very much a community. And sorry, I think I forgot where I was going.
That's okay. No, let me ask Marietta.
It's safe, yeah.
Yeah, Marietta, do you feel safe there?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I lived in Amsterdam in a good neighborhood, I must say, but we never close the door here, for instance. Or, if I have my bike out without a lock, I'm not panicking. In Amsterdam, it would be gone. And here it's, it's not. But we live in a little community, and I think it's also why it's easier to take a distance from the political, the politics of the country, Meloni. Because here it sometimes feels like back in the 80s, I sometimes say, also how houses look and shops look sometimes, but also that people are more like, knowing each other, they are family from each other, they live here. So it's much more regional here. It's small time, it's a small living. I wouldn't want to live here when I was young, but now it's really comfortable.
Yeah, it's a good place, and you really get to know everyone around you. We're fortunate. We have 3 restaurants right kind of across the street from us. We're up very high up, but you just walk down the hill and you can get to a pizzeria, you can get to, another restaurant. So you get to know people through going out for a drink or going for dinner at those places. And so, they know us, the American and the Dutch woman, the 2 women that,
the famous mulatsen.
What they haven't taken credit for, Evan, is that since they've been in Spino Secco, they've increased the awareness of Spino Secco, number one, and the commerce that they bring. With the visitors that they bring and the times that they go to those restaurants and visit those bars, there's a lot of talk about how the Dutch and the American woman are doing so much better and so much good for the community. And, they're so busy working. that I hear all the whispers, so I can feel and get all of the goodwill that's coming towards them.
Yeah, that's great.
Because their whole establishment is one of excellence. Top quality everything. So they've done an excellent job making it a destination place where you'd want to come and spend 3 months.
And do you feel?
I think
let me just ask Ruby real briefly here. I want you to also tell us when you have spent time there. Do you feel as safe as Kristin and Marietta feel?
I'm a New Yorker, so at night I lock my door. They don't lock the doors. They don't lock the doors to anything, and I'm going around locking the door and taking the key out. And it's just kind of like I don't want to be out of the habit when I come back to America, because I'm going to have to close the doors and I'm going to have to lock the windows at night. And there, you don't have to do any of that. Once Kristin left her purse in the driveway, and I picked it up and I go, this is probably the only fight we've ever had. And I go, how stupid can you be? And she's like, well, nobody's going to take it. I was like, how do you know that? You've got workmen everywhere. And she said, it's not a problem. And it wasn't a problem. It's me. I'm from New York. I would never leave my purse in the driveway. And we've got repairmen, we've got contractors, we've got people coming and going. But they're the most, I think, safe. It's the most safe place that I've been, because you have to remember, we walk in the woods. We walk every place, and there's hardly another soul there, us and the dogs.
Marietta, you were saying?
Oh, and now I think that the connection with the locals was not established like right away. We really had to work for that too. And on our property, we have the ruins of a castle, and it was totally overgrown. And we decided to invest money and cut away all the green, how you call that,
Shrubs and
Yeah.
And we did that, and then the whole village walks out and said, "Oh, we're so happy! We see the castello again." And that's how we now this weekend we have people that come from the commune, which is like the municipality, and they have this exchange, and they asked us if we could have people from them for
it's a sister city in France. So they're having some people from that city coming and staying here, and and we were more than happy to help out.
And we do that for free. So we give also back to the community. I think it's to be part of the community. You have to be, and you started to learn the language, and they really help you with in the beginning the babble. But
the first year we were here, after our 1 year anniversary of being here, we had it was in January, which isn't the most busy time here, but we had a party for everybody in our village at the bar across the street. It's really kind of a funny little bar, but we had probably 65, 70 people show up, and they could have all the wine, all the beer they wanted to drink. There was little bites of food and things like that. And it cost us $300 for like 3 hours of drinking.
That's
But
what's
it was really nice. And the townspeople got together and got a big flower arrangement for us, and so it's just a wonderful place.
Amazing.
I love it there.
You can even find it in Google Maps now under Spino Secco. There it is. There in
it's Mulazzo.
Yeah, Mulazzo. So Ariel writes to us on the YouTube chat. She says, FYI, if New Yorkers want to get dual citizenship in one of the countries mentioned on this program, folks should know that they should expect to wait at least 8 months for long-form birth certificates. This is partly due to a backlog left over from the lockdown in early 2020, because these records are not digitized and must be searched through by hand, and also because of the explosion of ancestry sites. There is no way to expedite the process to get these documents, so people need to be aware that it's not a quick thing. That's from Ariel. Good advice there. Very good. Let me get Neely's email. Neely writes to the program to say, I love the topic today. I'm admittedly envious of spending 180 days a year in Italy. We lived in Copenhagen for 1 year, and frankly, the Danish immigration system makes it very difficult. Although once we got through that, my spouse had a research sabbatical opportunity there. It was fantastic. My children were in 7th and 8th grade at the time, and we had an incredible time. So much so that my oldest daughter is transferring from university in California to a university in the Netherlands, where she will finish her university degree there. There are many very high-quality English programs in the Netherlands, and the cost is a fraction of U.S. university prices, although housing is very challenging. She will very likely stay in Europe. The quality of life, commitment to universal health care, public transportation options, and diversity of cultures in a relatively small geographic area are just some of the reasons why she wants to finish her degree in Europe. And my understanding is that the Netherlands wants their foreign students to stay and work. It's why they invest in the educational degree programs in English. Thank you for today's program. That's from Neely. What do you think of that, Marietta?
Well, yeah, I think I studied also in Amsterdam. It's a beautiful city to study. I think it's, I don't know if the Netherlands are so open to new people with the government we have now, but it was how it was before, and maybe still is because it's still going on like that. It's a very international city. Amsterdam became very international. Yes, but I can imagine that that's studying abroad is.
Well, you studied abroad.
I studied in America, by the way. Yes.
Patrick writes to say, this hour is brought to you by the Italian Ministry of Travel. Well, no, they're not underwriting it, but they should. Listen, Patrick, that's one of my great biases in life. One of the happiest things you can do is be in the Italian countryside. And we're talking to people who live there. So yes, my envy is probably just pouring through the program today. Mm-hmm. Although we do have some people who have asked if our guests feel that as citizens of the United States during this hard time, is there a responsibility to stay here, to deal with the challenges here, to try to help this country? And I'm going to ask Ruby a little bit about that. Ruby's like, no.
Absolutely no responsibility to stay
No?
here. No, this country has had ample opportunity to provide for its citizens in all walks of life, and it's failed to do that. And I think because as citizens we choose to do something else, it's not a slap against America, it's a choice for us. And that's what we're all fighting and living for, is choices in life. So I go to Italy to spend that time because it feels so much better than America at this point. You know, it's safe, it's peaceful, it's beautiful. I mean, it's healthier at this point than it is in America, psychologically and physically. So no, I don't feel an obligation to continue to send my money to either the Democrats or the Republicans to fight with each other and not do better for the country.
Kristin, what do you think?
A lot of people ask me, don't you miss America? Especially people here in Europe. They're like, don't you miss America? And, I don't miss America. I don't miss Rochester. I don't miss, sure, there's some things that are, we have Wegmans in Rochester, but I miss my friends and my family, and that has been somewhat difficult. I do try to go home a few times a year and spend real quality time with them. But do I feel like I owe anything to America? No, I'm 64 years old. I paid my dues. And right now, this isn't the America I knew or ever wanted the way it is right now.
So as we get ready to wrap here, Kristin, what would you leave with listeners who really are starting to think more seriously for whatever reason? Again, as I said at the top here, and I hope people have heard, this is not an hour about politics, although I understand that whatever your politics are, that might occasionally drive your thoughts about where you want to spend your future. But what would you say to anyone for any reason thinking about it, who wants to put that train on the track, Kristin?
I think you need to go and visit, places, take advantage of that 3-month period that you can be out of the States and be in Europe. And if you're, deciding between places, for instance, we have apartments. You can come and stay in one of our apartments for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, Or you stay a month here, you stay a month down in the Amalfi Coast of Italy, you stay a month in Spain somewhere. It's the best way. You can't just pop in and out for a few days in a location. You really have to, go to the farmer's market. Yeah, feel it. I mean, we felt it with, Marietta felt it before we even went inside the property we built or bought. So you have to have that feeling, and you can't just do it by, doing these trips that people do where you visit 5 different cities in Italy in 7 days. You really got to live there.
Yeah.
And so that would be my advice, would be definitely travel to the places you're thinking you might be interested in and stay for a while. Go grocery shopping, sit at the cafe and drink coffee. Get to know the community a little bit, and you'll know very quickly if people are friendly or welcoming to you. And we found heaven. We have a magical place, and we are very fortunate.
And we also sometimes we had a place that it didn't feel good. The house was beautiful, but it didn't feel good.
We looked at the properties we looked at. There were things about everyone that we didn't choose, that it was very easy to make a decision, and we didn't even know each other, so to both agree on a place together and be able to run this business together has been a kind of an amazing thing. It definitely is nice to do it with somebody else, because Marietta's great at things that I'm really bad at, and I'm really good at things that she's really bad at, and so we are able to balance each other. We live separately, which is important, but we're here on the property taking care of everything.
It's an amazing
each of
story.
our stuff.
It's an amazing story. Spino Secco, SPINOSECCO, in northern Tuscany. If anyone wants to check it out and maybe go see Kristin and Marietta and immerse for a while, you might even see Ruby when you're there.
Possibly.
When's your next trip, Ruby?
I can't tell.
You can't tell.
No, because my days are numbered. I'm going to Spain and Portugal for 3 weeks, so I can't decide until I see how that's part of my time.
It's been such a joy to talk to you.
Thank you.
I appreciate you coming in here, Ruby.
It's been a great pleasure to be here. Thank you.
That's Ruby Lockhart. And Kristin and Marietta, great luck that you'll have with Spino Secco. Hope you're drinking a good bottle of, I was going to say Brunello, but whatever's local tonight.
Well, Brunello is definitely a favorite of ours, and we hope you come to visit, Evan. Please come visit.
Thanks, everyone. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
This program is a production of WXXI Public Radio. The views expressed do not necessarily represent those of this station, its staff, management, or underwriters. The broadcast is meant for the private use of our audience. Any rebroadcast or use in another medium without expressed written consent of WXXI is strictly prohibited. Connections with Evan Dawson is available as a podcast. Just click on the Connections link at WXXInews.org.